Actually, I'm sorry.
Check 1, 2.
They're all- Good evening and welcome to the Raymond Select Board monthly meeting for July 14th, 2026. And so I would like to open the meeting by doing a roll call. Derek Ray?
Here.
Chris Hansen is absent. Kayla Gonzalez?
Here.
And Fred Miller?
Here.
And I am Char Jewel. Okay, on to item number 2. Approval of minutes from previous meetings. I need a motion to move items A, B, C, and D.
I'll make a motion to approve April 14th, May 12th, June 16th, and June 23rd regular select board meeting minutes.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Everyone in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you. Number 3, new business. 3A, approval of road name Katahdin Woods Drive.
So this is a road name approval application, map 4, lot 29, and the reason for the name is it's the name of a subdivision is Katahdin Woods Estate. And these are signed off on by the chief and the code enforcement officer.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to accept Katahdin Woods Drive.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? No? Okay. All those in favor? Thank you. 3B, business license approval for Z-Bond Fitness.
So this is a business license application, but I'll kick it over to the fire inspector.
Sorry about that. Yes, we have performed a couple of inspections at this business. There are still some minor deficiencies that need to be corrected, but we would recommend to the board that you could approve this application subject to satisfactory fire and life safety corrections completed.
Okay. Motion, please?
So these items here, like the carbon monoxide detectors,
Yep.
the lockbox in the back, and what was the third one? Yeah, the lockbox in the back. On a curtain that had to be moved or repaired.
I can make a motion to approve the business of Z-Bond Fitness pending or subject to fire and life safety inspection.
Second? Discussion? Anybody have any questions?
That's here, I don't think it was the same.
Any questions or comments from the public, either in person or online? I'll move to vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Welcome to town, Zach. Glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
3C has been crossed off. That's going to be rescheduled for a future meeting. 3D, revaluation update. So, Mr. LaBelle, please tell us great news.
Okay, well, the great news is that the project is nearing the final stages. We expect we'll probably be ready to release values to the public within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So we're nearing the end. Essentially today, what we wanted to do was give a little bit of a primer to the board and to the public about property taxes in general, how they work, how revaluations work, and give you a little bit of an update about where we are in the project process. So I've got hopefully a relatively short slideshow. If you have questions, feel free to interrupt me, and we'll address things as we go. I'm joined by Kevin Lean, who's the project manager from KRT Appraisal. They're the company that's handling the revaluation for the town, and Kevin will be able to assist me with answering any technical questions that might come up. So let's see if that's actually working good. Okay, so property taxes in general, a lot of times with any type of government, people talk a lot about what the government does and doesn't do, and a lot about taxes, and people are generally upset about, making the big payment every year. But I thought I'd take a moment and just write down some of the items that your property taxes are used for in either municipal government, the school department, and the county government. And this is just a partial list, but you can see there's a wide range of things that fall under the property taxes, from police and the justice system and the correction systems to public education, elections, fire and EMS, pretty much all the things that touch our lives on a pretty much a daily basis, roads and infrastructure, all come under the jurisdiction to some degree by the property tax. So, it's a fairly large check that most people who own property have to write every year, but it does go to good things and things that are necessary to have a civilized society. It keeps a lot of things, going. Rec department, trash disposal, pretty much everything that you can think of. A little bit about how property taxes are formulated. This kind of goes back to your days in school with the 3 branches of government: the legislative branch, the executive branch, and the judiciary. Taxes are mostly have to do with the legislative and the executive branch. On the left-hand side, you have pretty much the legislative actions. That has to do with the appropriations and how much the tax actually is. And all power to tax is vested by the Maine's Constitution to the legislature. And the legislature cedes that authority out in the terms of property taxes to the towns, the school districts, and the counties. So your town meeting here in Raymond is the legislative body that approves the town budget, that handles all the local expenditures, roads, fire, trash pickup, all those types of things. Obviously, the referendum vote in June is where the legislative action of voters approves the school district tax, and your elected representatives at the county handle the county portion of the tax, which handles your justice system, our sheriff's department that handles police department stuff here, the land records, registry of deeds, all those types of things. On the executive side of the tax, you basically have the role of the assessor. So that also forms from the Constitution, which mandates how taxes are apportioned in Maine. The legislature creates tax laws and delegates enforcement to the state tax assessor. The state tax assessor then delegates enforcement down to the local level. And the local assessor is the one that implements the actual assessment role down at the local level. A little bit about the way budgets and taxes flow. Everything, again, flows from Maine's Constitution to the legislature. It seeds down to the municipal, county, and school taxes. So those the town meeting, the county commissioners, and your school referendum. They all formulate their budgets. They determine how much of those budgets needs to be funded by the property tax. So each part of government has other revenues that come in that they use towards their operations. After all those other revenues are accounted for, what you're left over with is the amount that goes into the property tax. Those entities then warrant down to the assessor how much money needs to be assessed for their particular branch of county or school or municipal. So the assessor must warrant for collection the amount that's directed to him by legal vote. So if the county sends a warrant to the assessor that says, assess the town of Raymond $1 million for Cumberland County fees, the assessor must honor that. The assessor does no power to say, geez, we really like to do that, but we can only give you $800,000. If the votes are legally passed and warranted, then the assessor is obligated to warrant that amount to taxes. Once that's done, it flows out of appropriation and assessment down into collections and operations. So then the tax collector takes over from the assessor, and the tax collector is actually in charge of going out and collecting all the assessed taxes from all the property owners in town. And then the tax collector gives that money over to the local treasurer, and the local treasurer pays the money out to the school in the county, and then also pays all the municipal bills that come up because the treasurer is seated at the local municipal level. Essentially, one of the things to note here is that the town acts essentially as a pass-through agent for the school and the county. So if we have to pay $15 million to the school department, to SAD 14, they expect to get all their $15 million in monthly payments, regardless of whether or not the town is fully collecting all of the warranted taxes. So the town is kind of the liability holder there for delinquencies and things like that. So we're kind of the middleman in that area, and we're directly responsible for our own expenditures. A little bit about the office of the assessor. Some of you may, when you run for select board, sometimes it can be a surprise to find out that, hey, guess what? You're also the assessor here for the town of Raymond. Under Maine statute, municipalities which do not choose a separate board or a single assessor, the select boards serve that role as the town assessors. And what is frequently happens is the towns then hire a professional assessor, such as myself, to act as the agent for the board and handle all the day-to-day operations of the department and the evaluation of properties. Typically, the assessors then handle things like the annual tax commitment, the setting of the tax rate each year, any appeals that come after taxes are issued generally come up to the board, but all the normal day-to-day type things of reports that we need to file, all those things tend to come through the assessing office at the department level. assessors in Maine have a unique role in government structure. You have a dual role. You are both a municipal official, and in your case, the municipal officers. So you're kind of the executives of the town, but you also, as assessors, are an agent of state government and somewhat separate from your role as a municipal officer. Because of that, municipalities under the law cannot exert any legal control over the actions of the municipal assessors, because as assessors you fall under the control of the state tax assessor. And so when you're the same person, can get a little bit confusing. But if you're in a town that has a town council or a city council who serves your legislative role, there's a real division there between that board and the assessor. And as I said earlier, assessors are required to obey all warrants received by them and govern themselves by statute. So one of the primary things that the assessors do, and it's the primary role of the board, is they set the tax rate each year. And this tax rate is fundamentally a mathematical formula. It's not a formula where the assessors can make a decision to assess more tax than what is legally warranted to them. They pretty much have very little leeway in terms of overlay as to how much additional tax can be added. Really only the amount necessary to round the tax rate itself. And the tax rate is arrived at by taking the total amount of property tax and dividing it by the total amount of the town's taxable value. And this is an example of our current year. So for our FY 25-26 year, the school, county, and municipal budgets required $20,801,000 to be raised through the property tax. At that time, we had $1.1 billion of taxable value on the books. And if you divide those two, you arrive at that tax rate of $18.80. Once we know the $18.80 number, that number is then applied uniformly to every property in town to get their individual assessment. So if your home was valued at $300,000 at an $18 tax rate, you have a $5,600 tax bill that year. If you do that with every property in town, it's going to add up to exactly $20,801,000. So that's how the system is, the rate is applied on the mass level and how it's distributed out to every property in town. Currently, about 24% of the property tax supports the municipal budget, including TIF and overlay funds. The remaining 76% is school and county.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So no matter where you live in Raymond, we all get charged that same price. So in other words, if you're on the waters, the only difference is going to be the value of your property.
Yeah.
Which will change what your tax amount will be, but it'll be still all at the same price.
So if you look at step 2, the tax rate is the same for every property in town. The assessed value is the number that changes depending on your location, the value of your property. Maine does not have a split tax rate system. I think Massachusetts has split tax rates where commercial properties can be assessed at a different tax rate than residential properties. It's something that I think that the property tax force up in Augusta has been toying with, is possibly a constitutional amendment for some split tax rates. It's quite a process to go through to change that, because it does require a constitutional amendment. But one of the issues that has been happening in service center towns, like the most glaringly evident would be Lewiston right now. Lewiston revaled this year, and there was a pretty sizable tax shift onto residential property off of commercial. So that's caused them to kind of put a pause on things over in Lewiston. It doesn't, without a constitutional change, it's kind of unavoidable. It's been a residential boom, and so commercial property in those types of towns has tended to not appreciate as fast as residential stuff.
Let me see what I can think of. I guess, let's, go ahead.
A little bit about the role of the assessors in particular. This is what Maine's constitutional requirement is, that all taxes upon real and personal estate shall be apportioned and assessed equally according to the just value thereof. Essentially what that's saying is you've got your property tax, and then it must be divided equally according to value. So as long as you are equitable, meaning you have all property types assessed at roughly the same percentage of market value, that's what equal according to just value means. So what we don't want to have is one segment of the population assessed at, say, 75% of market value, and another set of the population assessed at 30% of market value, because then you have unequal apportionment. So that's the constitutional requirement from which all the tax laws are derived from.
I have a question. If we go back to that last slide, not this one, the one before that, and we have the where you come up with the dollar 1880, is that with everything accounted for, what we can add to help try to bring that down for every rule, everything that we've looked at? That's that's the number we've came with. You know,
Right.
it's not, that's any surplus or anything we have, it's all what we've drawn.
Yep, that's after.
That's the bottom, that's it, that's the number.
Yep, that's after all non-tax revenues like revenue sharing, excise tax revenue, use of surplus. Everything has been boiled out on the municipal side. The school has done that on their side before it goes to referendum, and the county's doing it on their side before they vote. And the 20.8 million is what you're left over with that you have to go to the property tax for.
So that's our real hard number. The county's put in, everything, our surplus has been put into it.
That's your actual mill rate right now from last
Yep.
year.
Yep.
This is last year, okay, so we're not talking about this year's.
No, you don't know that yet.
Right,
Yeah.
okay, that's what
Yeah,
I'm trying
this
to
is
get.
the year, this is the last commitment. Yep. So, I'll give you some general numbers. They're not exact, but, probably, the municipal budget is probably about half funded by non-property tax revenue, and the other half is coming through the property tax. So we have, when you go to town meeting, you'll see that there was, $2.3 million of other revenue that the town meeting approved. That's your excise tax, all the little fee money, all the things that come in, reimbursements from the state, all those types of things that are used to reduce the budget to get to the property tax. We also have the state revenue sharing that comes in as well. And on the school side, they have education subsidy that they take off of their end, and they boil it down to what they need from property tax. So yeah, the 20.8 is the bottom number after everything else has been accounted for.
But that was for last year's or this year's. We still haven't got next year's.
That's right.
You
Yeah.
don't have the mill rate, correct? Because you don't have the valuations
Yeah.
yet.
So the budgets have all been approved. What we don't know are what the valuations are yet. And once that's all finalized in September, we'll know all the valuation totals. We'll know the situation with the fund balance. We'll know all of we'll know how much property tax needs to be collected. And typically what we'll do is we will give the Board of Selectmen some choices as for rates. They really come down to how much surplus you apply or how much overlay you run. And most of the time we're within 5 or 10 cents your options are pretty limited by the time we get to September.
You've found everything you can already, basically.
It's already, the votes have been cast.
Right.
Everything is, is pretty much set in stone. It's just a mathematical calculation at that point to choose from. Again, just to reiterate the appropriations part of it, one of the common misconceptions about revaluation is that it's a money grab by the town, and that somehow the higher values equate to more revenues in for the town. That's not the case. The revaluations are essentially revenue neutral. It's the budgets that determine how much property tax we need, and the values are used to apportion the tax. So if you use the pie, the pizza slice, or the pie analogy, the size of the pie is the budgets, and how much of the budgets have to be funded by property tax. What the assessments do is they slice that pie up, and they give everybody a piece of that pie, and the pies are sliced by property value. So rather than 3,000 or 4,000 equal slices, Maine's Constitution requires that we give a larger slice to a property that's worth $2 million than a property that's worth $500,000. So that's how the system works. It doesn't generate revenue. It's all about apportionment of the tax.
So Kurt, I just want to make a comment that, you mentioned a minute ago that sometimes people characterize the tax burden as a money grab by the town. And just want to remind folks that the tax burden that we experience as citizens of this town is voted on by the Raymond voters every June. If folks are not happy with their tax bill, then they need to show up to the budget committee meetings and make their voices heard. They need to show up in June. Actually, it starts in May with the school. Show up to those meetings and vote. It does no good to sit home on your couch and bitch about your tax bill. You have to get up and you have to do something about it. If you're not happy with it, then you need to do something. So just wanted to throw that out there, that each one of us has a responsibility to the tax burden that we all share, and that we have a voice, and it's at the voting booth, and it's at public meetings such as this one today. So I encourage people to get out and be active and make their voices heard. If you think there's things in our current budget that need to be cut or could be reduced, then you need to start going to the budget committee meetings and talk to those folks, because they are starting to design the budget for next fiscal year this fall. So winter. So I encourage people to become active. Thank you, Kurt.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. I mean, the local government is pretty much the most direct democratic portion of the system that we have. We don't have a ton of say on an individual level as to what happens at the federal government level, or even really the state level. But down at the local level, there's a lot of control there on the budget side, and there's also on the assessment side, the valuations that are used are directly related to what your neighbors and former neighbors have bought and sold their property for here in town. So you've got, everything boils down to the individuals in town, what they buy and sell property for, and what the budgets are. And like when you go back to that first slide of all the things that are funded under the property tax, it's pretty hard to go and look at that list and find things that we can live without. Most of these things are necessary, and it's difficult decision to decide, where to trim when you're talking about EMS and fire versus police, versus education. It's like, where do you make those cuts? And it's not an easy decision. A little bit about how we do the assessment process. So assessments are a different type of appraisal than what most people are probably used to. Most people are used to having a fee appraisal for a mortgage, or they're going to sell their home, and they get what's called a single property appraisal, where someone focuses in on their property, they look for comparable sales, they make adjustments, and they arrive at an estimate of value. Mass appraisal is a little bit different. What we do is we create a model, a statistical model, which is based on the sales that happen in town across all types of property classes, single-family homes, commercial stuff, waterfront, all the different types of property. The model is calibrated and verified using the sales that happen in town. And then once the model is operating well with the sale properties, it is then distributed out to all the non-sale properties in an equitable manner to arrive at an estimate of value. And what we do is we use something called a ratio study to gauge how the model is performing. It's where we look at all the sales that come in town, we look at the assessments compared to those sales, and we look for how is the model performing now. Is it producing equitable assessments, or are there areas that are straying and becoming inequitable? Maine Revenue comes to every town in the state of Maine, and they conduct a ratio study for every town, and they use that as the basis for our state valuation. So the state already equalizes every town to 100% statistically, and they use the state valuation for all sorts of allocations, education, revenue sharing. It's used to slice up the county tax. So even though our assessments haven't been touched in quite some time, the state does know roughly where we are and uses the equalized numbers to handle state aid. Do you have anything you want to say, Kevin, about valuation models? That's really your area of expertise.
I think you covered it so far, yeah.
Can I ask a question, Kurt?
Mhm.
So, and what you're saying there, the way that you come up with it now, let's say if somebody has a house that's worth $300,000, and somebody comes in and buys a house next door to it, and they tear it down, they put $1.5 million house up, that guy with a $300,000 is now not automatically gonna become into the tax rate of the value of that $1.5 million house. Is that what you're saying? That's why you're doing that general, what's being sold and what's in the area? Or is that person that's got the $300,000 house all of a sudden gonna have his taxes go up because now the value of the property near him is just taking a huge jump?
Well, I mean, the value of the property near him, if that person put $1.5 million home on it, then he can expect to receive an assessment of $1.5 million. You know,
The guy that owns the $1.5 million
Yeah.
house, the guy that owns a $300,000 home.
is not suddenly going to be worth $1.5 million because he didn't build $1.5 million house. He still has a $100,000 house or whatever it is. You know,
So you're gonna go on the same mill rate, but you're gonna have difference in the value of the actual property.
Yeah, I mean, what happens is you can have a house that, you know, that 3 years ago was worth $300,000, but if 3 similar homes in that neighborhood 3 years down the road sell for $450, it's a pretty good indicator that the house that was worth $300 is now worth around $450. You know, if they're equal properties, equal value. You know, a scenario where someone builds a property that's different than that property is going to be valued based on what it is. Am I explaining that
Yeah,
correctly?
that's correct.
Well, my thought process is somebody's been there forever, you know, especially the family had it
Yeah.
many generations. You know, the house was probably bought for very little money.
Yeah.
And now you start building these great big, you know, houses around it. Are we gonna tax them out of their house?
Well, that's a real concern because, you know, in terms of the assessment process itself, there's no mechanism to protect people for that. We have to value their property based on what the market thinks their property is worth, not based on how long they've been there or what their financial situation is even. Now, there's other programs and stopgaps on the back end to try to help people who are in that situation, but the assessment, the process itself doesn't allow for us to consider those types of things when we make an assessment. You know, the things are happening. I know what you mean. You know, you've got Maine residents working either retired or working Maine jobs, but they're in a market which is driven by out-of-state influences, but unfortunately, that's the situation that we're in.
The legislature a couple of years ago passed LD 290 and then later repealed it, which would have helped in that regard. And but it's a legislative action at the state level, those types of things.
So a worst case scenario, if somebody comes in, they build 4 or 5 houses around there, and they all go up to that $1.5 million, the guy in the middle with the 300,000 is pretty much in trouble.
Well, not necessarily, because
No.
that guy hasn't updated anything. All these are brand new houses.
Yeah.
So you
But I
got to
mean-
split the value of the land versus the value of the house. These people tore down a house, built $1.5 million house with brand new construction material, all that. This guy's still living in a 20, 30-year-old house. So that building itself is not appreciating. The land around it might appreciate a little bit, but that's only a fraction of the value of the overall tax.
I'm just
So-
going, like Kurt said, if 4 or 5 places around him sell or a house and raises the value, that's gonna raise the value of that house.
It raises the land value, but it doesn't raise necessarily the house value, because that's still, that asset didn't appreciate because he didn't tear his house down and rebuild it with new modern, he hasn't updated it, hasn't anything like that. Then the value of the house isn't really changing, but the value of the land is, because the land around him is now being valued higher because
Being
people are
moved way
paying
up,
more money
right.
around it. So it's,
Well, and, like a simple example, I think, would be if you have a street that has a bunch of 1,300 square foot average ranches, and pre-corona, pre-2019, those homes would sell for $250,000. All of a sudden, now they sell for $500,000. So if 3 out of 10 of those houses sell for $500,000, and they're all similar and they're all in the same neighborhood, then the other 7 aren't worth $250,000 anymore. They're worth $500,000 because that's what the market is telling us that people will pay for that type of housing stock. So even though that person who hasn't sold hasn't done anything to his property, the market forces have lifted the value of that property.
That was, I maybe went a little bit too high with
Yeah.
the $1.5 million, but that was, I was saying I was concerned for
Yeah,
that.
no, it's a
Jacking somebody's
it's a-
taxes up pretty.
Well, but you have to remember, the taxes all are about apportionment. So if just because someone's property value rises by 100% or doubles, if everyone's property value were to double, but you still have the same amount of tax, then the rate that we're going to plug in at the end is going to drop down to accommodate that. So an increase in valuation does not necessarily mean an increase in tax.
It will lower the mill rate.
Right. Yeah, we'll get into, there'll be times when increases in valuation will increase tax, and we'll talk about how that happens.
So Kurt, just one other clarifying, in that example where the properties around you sell for a lot of money, you won't see an increase in your land valuation until the town does a revaluation, right?
Yeah, we wouldn't just target,
Right.
we wouldn't target everything, we have to stay consistent with our model and apply it consistently. So we don't want to treat certain properties a certain way. What could happen, if one particular neighborhood were to suddenly become very desirable on the market, and that neighborhood had 50 or 60 properties in it, and all of a sudden we noticed that neighborhood was selling for 10% more than it was, but all the other neighborhoods were selling the same amount, then you might need to make an adjustment to that whole neighborhood and bring them up 10% to maintain equity. Otherwise, you're undervaluing those properties compared to everyone else. But you wouldn't do selective properties. The only time we would do individual properties is if there's changes to that property, like they've required building permits and done work, or we discover that we had bad data on that property. Sometimes what happens is a property goes up for sale. We look at the sale listing on Redfin, we see all the interior photos, we get the bedroom bath count, and if we haven't, we look at our property information and we're like, oh, we've got all these things wrong. We'll make corrections so we have good data, but it's still within the context of the model. We're not,
Right.
we're not applying different schedules to that property. Okay, so, why is the revaluation necessary? The main concern is fairness as defined, and fairness is one of those things, it's defined by Maine's Constitution, as we talked about earlier. It's equal apportionment according to just value. if we left it up to all of our own selves, our definition of fairness would change depending on who we were. For instance, we might say, geez, it's not fair, that someone who's lived in this house for 40 years and is now on a fixed income is subject to these forces. So we have to rely on the constitutional and the statutory definitions of fairness and apply those. And what the revaluation does is it just redistributes the existing tax base. So depending on what happens with the budgets up or down, the revaluation is just changes how we apportion and slice that tax pie. And the assessments are based on what people, their new neighbors and their former neighbors purchased property for over the last couple of years. We have, as assessors, we carry the obligation to uphold that responsibility, that duty. So one of the common things that comes up during a revaluation is if we hired a firm. The firm is headquartered out of Massachusetts, and one of the things that you'll hear on social media and in chatter is that we're bringing Massachusetts values up here, and that that's just not the case. All the values are a response from the sales that happen in Raymond. So the appraisers are professionals. They deal with only this set of sales. This particular company, they have revaluations going on in Bangor, Augusta, Oakland right now. They had Cape Elizabeth, I think, last year or the year before. So they're not going to confuse Bangor sales with Raymond sales with Cape Elizabeth sales. So it's all going to be based on what's happening in this local market. So it doesn't matter where an appraiser is from. The data comes from the local sources. So also, one other reason to do the reval is simply compliance. We have some statutory minimums that we have to maintain, and we're out of compliance with those minimums. I'll have a graph on that shortly. Just again, to reiterate, the revaluation is revenue neutral, and by itself, the revaluation does not increase or decrease the total tax revenue collected by the town. And the amount of taxes is a result of the democratic vote by Raymond residents and their elected representatives. It's been 21 years since the last revaluation, so we're going to be probably seeing quite a few changes on the property assessment front. That's a long time. A lot of the market forces changes have happened within the last 5 or 6 years, but then mixed into that, you're also going to have property changes. Properties have some been improved that we may not know about. Some have fallen into disrepair that we don't know about, and all these things are going to be accounted for. I'm almost done. A little bit about where we're at right now. So back in 2018, 19, the average assessment to sale ratio was around 90%. So if a home sold for $1 million or sold for $500,000, chances are we had 450 on it. Our statistical average was pretty close to what market was. And you can see that leading into the pandemic era, market appreciation, where our assessment to sale ratio starts to drop, was pretty steady. It was that 3 to 4%, 3-4% a year, kind of normal market appreciation. And then when the pandemic came in and we started to get an influx of folks moving in from out of state, we started to see double-digit appreciation in the real estate market. And so we quickly went from 80-90% of market to now we're at 45% of market. The statutory minimum is 70, so we dropped out of compliance about midway through the pandemic in 2021. It's taken us, it takes a year or two to kind of realize where you are, and then raise the money for the revaluation, go through the contracting and the bidding process, and then the project itself's been underway for over a year now. So by the time you realize that you're kind of out of compliance to getting corrective action, you can have a few more years of market appreciation that takes hold. And you can see what's going to happen is we're going to go all the way from 45% statistical average or median assessment all the way up to about 95%. So what took 8-10 years to drop, it's all going to come up in that 1 year. So what tends to happen is if people are unaware of what's been going on in the housing market around them, residents can be shocked when they get that notice and they see what their new property value is. Sometimes they don't understand that we're not saying that their property value changed that much in 1 year. It's just that we're kind of catching up for many years worth of market appreciation all at once.
So Kurt, is this data on the screen for Raymond only?
Yeah, this is Raymond. This data, except for the current year where we're expecting to be, is from Maine Revenue Services ratio studies. Every town, depending on when it conducted a revaluation, is going to find itself at a slightly different assessment to sale ratio. So if a town has revaled in the last couple of years, they're probably up in that 80-90% range. If they're like us and they haven't revaled in anywhere from 10 to 20 years, they're probably down in the 35 to 45% range. And we're kind of in the, I think Maine's been averaging about 100 revals a year the last 2 or 3 years. This year, I suspect there's about 75 revals going on in the state. We're kind of reaching the end of it. It takes about 3 or 4 years, but pretty much most every municipality in Maine either has revaled or is underway at this point. These market forces have affected the entire state. It's not just Cumberland County, not just Raymond. So aside from the actual sale ratio, where are we at in terms of ratio? There's the issue of equity. This is equity can be a little bit hard to get your head around. It has to do with things like coefficients of dispersion. But essentially, these are 4 sales that I picked out from Raymond. It tells you what our actual sales ratio is and what comparing it to our average. So sale number 1, the assessment on that currently is $286,800, but the sale was for $586,000. So the assessment to sale ratio on that's 49%. Our average or median ratio is around 45%. So there's a 4% differential from the average. That's actually really close. So that assessment is already quite equitable. It's only 4% deviating from what the average is. By the time you get down to sale number 3, that's a $561,000 assessment, but the property sold for $975,000. We're at 58% on that one, so we're 13% over the average. So that property is suffering a little bit of overassessment in terms of its equitable distribution. So even though the property sold for $975,000, it's slightly over on the dispersion side. And sale 4 sold at 35% of market, so we're 10% under the average. So that property is being undervalued compared to the norm. When we equalize the values, obviously if you have to go from 58% to say 95 or 100, you've got less distance to go. If you're going from 35% all the way up to 100, you're going to see sale 4 is likely to get an increase in their tax apportionment from the reval. Sale 3 may see a reduction in tax apportionment from the reval. That's how the system kind of plays out. This is so how equity is typically spread. So the blue chart is a typical reflection of what things look like before a reval. We have a wider spread off of the average. So if the average assessment is 45%, you're going to have it's going to be spread out 25% on either side of that. So we don't have as good of equity in the current model that we could have. When we are done, what we're hoping to see and what we will see is a much tighter band of sale properties that are within 10%, 10-15% of the average. So we'll have better equity, and this will be the sales, which we can measure, but if we equitably work it out to the non-sales, then they'll be more equitable as well. In 2005, with that reval was done, the 2005 model would have produced something that looked like the red curve, but over the course of 20 years, as markets change and the assessment model doesn't, it gets diluted and we get less equitable. Okay, a little bit about how the revaluation is likely to affect property values. Now, the big caveat here is that this is dependent on assuming that budgetary requirements for the town, the school, and the county don't change. So if we have a flat tax, flat budget, if in scenario one, if a property value increases in value, but increases at a rate which is lower than the average, that property is likely to get a decrease in taxes. So it could still double in value, but if it's less than the average, it's going to see a decrease in tax under the reval. If it's anywhere near similar to what the average is, then it's likely not going to see a substantial change in taxes. But if the increase percentage is more than what the average is, these are the people that are assessed at 30% of market value when the average is, say, 40-45. Those properties are likely to see increases in the tax burden. If the tax is still $20.8 million, that all plays out, but it still equals $20.8 million. If we have a tax increase on the budget side, it changes the formula, it changes things a little bit. But strictly talking about the reval, this is how these things play out. A little bit about where we're at. We're looking at a 2-year sales sample for Raymond. Median sale price on the interior single family is around $470,000. We've got about 120 plus sales to work with in that area. So again, that's the median. There's sales lower than that. There's sales higher than that. On the waterfront, we've got around 45 sales. Median sale price on the waterfront, $1.1 million. So you've got stuff that's sold at $750. You got stuff that's sold at $3 million, but the median is 1.1. On the county level, Maine Association of Realtors. This is the rolling 3-month average, comparing 2025 to 2026. This is the 3 months leading into the assessment date of April 1st. County average for Cumberland County last year was $550,000. This year it's $560,000, 1.82% change year over year. So you can see that at least in terms of the prices that sold during that time frame, things were fairly stable in terms of prices in Cumberland County. Project status, all the data collection efforts are complete, and we had a large response on the callback appointments. So KRT was gracious enough to extend our callback appointment timeframe well into June. So KRT spent March, April, May, and half of June doing appointments. They had over 750 callback appointments for interior inspections for the reval. So those have all been conducted and keyed in. I would think our entry rate, we have good data on the interior of the housing stock on about 50% of the properties. You can see we still had about 1,300 properties that were measured only, but there wasn't anyone home, and those people didn't call for an appointment. So if when the values are released, those people should be hopefully checking their property record cards, and if there's any errors, that's a chance for them to get them cleaned up during the hearings. Sales review is complete. Kevin is working on the sales and residential modeling. It's about 80% complete, so there's still work to do in the modeling, so we don't have the values ready yet for public release. Commercial modeling is still in progress. Field reviews are about 80% complete. Kevin has been spending, I think, the last 3 weeks here in town with it, going to every property with the property record card, making any changes necessary, and lining up the neighborhoods for the land modeling and things like that. And as he completes that, the field office down in Massachusetts is keying in any changes that he makes. Probably another week or two there.
Question on the vacant parcels. Does that mean pieces of property with no buildings on them? Or is this?
Right, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That was it, thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had, there's still 174 properties that were either posted or had a total refusal, for anything to be done on the property. Of that total, there was 60 people who had posted properties that called for callbacks. There were 400 people that called that 124 people had given info at the door, but then had a callback appointment in anyway. And I think we had 400 property owners who called for appointments that didn't get it, weren't home on the first pass. Can't get this thing to go. Somehow it's coming in up there. Okay, so the remaining parts of the project, KRT still has a couple of weeks left to finish up the evaluation process. I'm expecting to do town reviews. We'll have about a week to look at the land neighborhoods, look at all the values. We're projecting that the values will be ready to be released to public at the end of this month, end of July, early August. Taxpayers will be getting letters with their new valuation. KRT will host copies of all the property record cards on their site. So when someone gets their letter, they'll be able to go on and download their property record card and review it. They'll be able to look at all the sales data so they can see what's been selling around them. If property owners have questions or concerns or things that they discover that are errors on their card, KRT will be conducting hearings for most of the month of August. We expect hearings to kick off around August 8th or 10th, probably last through the end of the month. I expect to be doing those here at the broadcast studio. KRT will handle all the scheduling for those hearings. They'll also do phone hearings if people want to discuss with KRT their value over the phone. Once the hearings are complete and any changes are made as a result of the hearings, they'll turn over the final values to the town around the first week of September. What my expectation is after Labor Day weekend, I'll be here that entire week to do a final review of the values and start to formulate the tax rate options for the board. And we'll be looking at issuing the tax assessments and the tax rate September 15th at the Selectmen's meeting on September 15th. And that's kind of where we're at.
When you said you're gonna be doing that here at the broadcast studio here, is that gonna be live? In other words, are you recording that to go out into that thing, or is that just a,
No,
you're just
those,
using this as a building?
yeah, as a building, because I think, what do you anticipate 4 to 5 KRT staff for hearings?
Yeah, we can break it up between phone hearings and in-person hearings.
So my goal is to not disturb the setup here. So what I suspect is we'll have a setup here where taxpayers will be able to sit with a representative in this room and go review their property record card, go over any issues that they have with a KRT representative. You know, I'm expecting that we'll probably have full hearings for at least 3 weeks.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Only comment I got is thank you very much. I got an awful lot of good knowledge out of this. I
Yeah,
really do.
it's-
And it would
it's
be great if we could have a copy of your,
Okay, yeah,
your chats.
Yep.
And that program we just went through.
sure. Yep, it's dry. It's not very exciting material.
But it's stuff that we needed to know. I
Right.
mean, I didn't understand. At least I know it helped me out a lot. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure that some that's been on the board a little bit longer know more about it, but I mean, it really helped me
Yeah.
get an understanding.
One thing I think I probably should add, what I'm anticipating is, because KRT's responsibility is to value the properties in town, not to address what people's tax ramifications are. So, you know, we won't know what the tax rate's going to be when the initial letters go out. What I'm expecting we will do is, you know, we will try to reiterate to people not to try to calculate what their tax bill is going to be. Especially what you don't want to do is use this year's $18.80 rate on your new value. It's not going to work. It's going to produce a massive tax that's, you know, not going to be the real number. So the guidance for the resident, for the taxpayer, is to look at the value. What our goal is here is to, and the legal requirement, is to come up with a reasonable estimation of the value of the property. It's mass appraisal. We're not going to hit every property exactly on, you know, on the head. Even the sale properties, there'll be slight variations because we're using a multitude of sales. But what the law is looking for is reasonableness. You know, so obviously if someone has evidence that their value is worth $500,000 and we have a $2 million value on it, that, you know, that would not be reasonable. But, you know, the difference between 500,000 and then 550 is 10%. It's well within the range of reasonableness. So what we're looking for the residents to do is make a reasonable estimation of the value, look at what's selling for the homes around them, and address issues of valuation with KRT. So KRT, you know, has no idea what our tax load is, you know, and that's not their responsibility. So we'll handle those queries once the tax bills actually go out in September. We'll handle those in-house. And that's all I got. Did you have anything?
All set?
Yeah, so Kurt, you bring up a good point. So just to reiterate, please don't panic.
Yeah.
Don't take that 1880 per thousand and look at your new valuation and freak out. Please don't do that.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, we'll be getting a lot of questions around that time. So if you plan to come see Kurt, please do make an appointment because he is part-time, and we'll reiterate that as that date gets closer. But he's not available for walk-ins because he's not here full-time. So if you have any questions when you get your values, just call the office, make an appointment, and he'll do his best.
Yeah, I'm expecting, especially once tax bills are issued and, we won't have the full-time benefit of KRT's staff here. I'm going to add almost 50%, more time to Raymond over this next fiscal year, but that's still not a lot. Instead of doing 60 days a year, which is basically a day a week, I will be able to produce, like 85 to 90 days a year, but it's still only a couple of days a week. So I do anticipate that our local staff will probably become somewhat bogged down, and we'll just have to ask that residents be patient. If they make an appointment, that appointment could be a few weeks out in a matter of a month, right now, we always take residents, can walk right in, and we take residents as they come, and residents are used to being able to just get in their car and drive down to the town office and speak with someone. The volume that I think that we're going to incur here is going to make that difficult, and we just ask for patience from the residents as we work through this process. It's going to take all of the next year to work through this.
All right, thank you, Kurt.
Yep, thank you.
All right, 3E, MMA Workers' Compensation Safety Incentive Program resolve.
So at the last meeting, Marcus came and presented. You all signed on with MMA for property casualty and workers' comp. This resolve will save you roughly $4,000 to $5,000 off your premiums, and also enrolls us in their safety program. And as we progress through that in the next year, it's another 5%, another up to 15% off the premiums. So that's what the resolve that's presented to you is. And yeah, they'll apply that credit after we pass it.
Okay, somebody make a motion, please.
I can make a motion to adopt the MMA Workers' Compensation Fund Resolve form, electing the town of Raymond's participation in the MMA Workers' Compensation Safety Incentive Program, and to authorize the chair and the members of the select board to execute the form.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? I'll just comment that, unfortunately, I missed the presentation last meeting, but I'm very familiar with these types of programs, and they, as long as we utilize the program well, it will reduce our overall costs and exposure, and at the end of the day, keep people safer. So I am definitely in favor. So I will call for a vote. All those in favor? Thank you. F, review annual goals.
So at the last regular meeting, we broke into a workshop where you all discussed your upcoming goals for the year. Attached in the packet is the meeting notes and the long form version of that meeting. And also for some of the more abstract goals, I sort of drafted a pragmatic action plan. This is your chance to, your first time meeting after that, to discuss your goals and formulate those priorities and kind of just let the public know what you discussed and develop an action plan. Yeah, just reviewing that item.
Okay, motion please.
So it would be to accept the select board goals and action plan derived from the June 16th meeting.
So moved.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
Discussion please.
I think when that workshop to me was it was an eye-opening thing.
I was just talking to your mic instead of to me, so the public at home can hear you.
I'm sorry. I thought when we had the workshop, I thought it went very well. I think I opened my eyes to some of the things, and what was interesting to me is I wasn't part of the comprehensive plan before and stuff, so I didn't see it, but everything that we talked about, everything we put on that board, when you take the two pieces and you put them together, almost perfectly lined up. I couldn't believe how close we were, and us sitting here talking to what the previous boards and the previous committees had been working on, and that made me feel good. Now we just got to get them in action and get them working.
Yeah, I was especially pleased at how cohesive we as a board worked together to come up with the goals. It was so great. Thank you to Glenn for suggesting it for the first meeting of the new board. It gave us a lot of opportunity to talk in amongst ourselves and have open discussion about our thoughts and our feelings and where we want to see the town go and what our goals are for the board for the next year and what our ideas are. So it gave us an opportunity to get to know each other outside of a formal meeting. So that was a great idea, Glenn. Gold star. Thank you.
Well, I'm glad you all benefited from that, and, you know, we can talk more when we get into budget about how frequently we want to do those and if we want them facilitated or not, so, we can keep doing them if you'd like.
It's nice to say organized instead of sporadically. I got an idea here, an idea here. It's, you know, we all got to talk and get it all organized and set up, so now that we actually have a plan moving forward, which is a lot easier than.
What I liked about it is we started out in broad, you know what I mean? There was all kinds of different things, but how we brought it all back down together, and we brought into the different, you know, how many times do we change the categories to different things, or move them from one category to the other, you know, move the priority from one to the other. You know, it was just a great workshop, and it was interesting when he was putting up the paper there, I was like, what's he doing? But it was actually sticky paper, and the notes that we were writing for him, he was moving them and putting them around, and it was just a great, I thought it was a great workshop.
Yep.
I really appreciated it. I thank again, Glenn.
Yeah, and Char and I were talking before the meeting, not uncommon to just kind of keep this as a standing check-in throughout the year. Goals and priorities change, you know, if you have a priority that becomes more urgent and merges, you know, you can always revisit these throughout the year and dial it in based on what you need.
Yep. Okay. Vote to accept, please. Thank you. G, tax acquired property policy.
So your current tax acquired property policy was last updated March 9th, 2010. The revision that's in front of you would bring the current policy into compliance with state law, which changed following Tyler v. Hennepin County, now codified as 36 MRS 943-C. What it does essentially is it eliminates payment schedules that extend beyond 5 months for folks who have repayment arrangements with us for back taxes. The previous policy allowed up to 60 months, I believe. And when you exceed that 5 months under state law, you've created a land installment contract, which means you're essentially, you hold the risk of having a mortgage that you're sort of managing with this resident. The good news is some of these have come off the books since we've revised. That's what some of the quick claim deeds are that you have later in the meeting. But this new policy, no resident from this day forward, unless what's outlined in the policy, will have a repayment arrangement and it won't exceed 5 months. No commercial properties will be allowed to enter into repayment arrangements. It's really intended to, and I think I understand what the board did, 2010, coming off the tail of the recession. A lot of people were losing their homes and you wanted to help keep people in them. This still does that. It just kind of mitigates that risk of creating, you know, private mortgages with the town holding it, because then we would have to evict them or sell the contract with the house when we sold the property, and then that would be the new owner's problem, but this kind of cleans that policy up.
Okay, motion please.
I can make a motion to approve and adopt the updated Town of Raymond tax acquired property policy as presented, which will be superseding the policy amended March 9th, 2010.
I'll second that.
Second, any discussion, please?
I just like the way it's laid out, because I mean, it just explains it a little bit better in the newer revision.
Yeah, the, on this one, Glenn, these gray bars that do some explanation, is those staying, or is that just for the meeting?
I'll probably codify it with your policy format after, so your signature one will be the policy.
Okay.
But, I mean, if you want them in, when we codify it, it can stay as a footnote.
I just kind of think it's a kind of a neat idea, because it just gives regular verbiage to the legalese.
Yeah, and it sort of gives some of the intent behind the
Yeah.
policy as well. But yeah, they can remain as footnotes.
Yeah,
I'd leave the format though, so that
You guys like that?
that it's, you can tell it's not part of the actual, it's not numbered and it's not part of the actual
Yeah.
policy.
I like that. So I would imagine this last change being in 2010, this is one of the older policies that are on the list to be reviewed and revised.
That's one
that we
down.
need. There's one down. We only have like 999 to go or something, right?
I don't think there's that many, but there's definitely a couple.
Okay. All right. Call for a vote, please, in the affirmative. All right, that passes. Thank you. All right, H, approval of fee schedule changes for the fire department.
Yep, so I'll cover this for Bruce. They were expecting some stormy weather, so I will just go over that. There's just some minor changes to the fees that are presented. Presents a more realistic rate structure based on the costs of staff and equipment. They've not made any adjustments in several years. The report fee rate of $25 has been in place since the early 2000s. And the apparatus billing schedule funds help offset the cost of major incidents caused by intentional acts like arson or hazardous material haulers having an accident. So this is just an update to the fee schedule for that.
All right, motion, please.
Can I just ask, do you want the motion first, or can I ask a question?
We'll do the motion
Okay.
first, if you don't mind.
I'll make a motion to approve and adopt make a motion to approve the updated fire department fee schedule.
Second?
I'll second it.
All right, discussion?
These fees, are these fees for the residents that are using this, or just for insurances, or?
So there are, I think, a couple scenarios there. Obviously, review of subdivisions and all that are things that occur from the planning process. But the motor vehicle accident billing, I believe, and if Wayne's still on and he knows more about it, or Cliff knows more about it than I do, but you can bill for those, and then for that response, they'll bill it to insurance or whoever when there's a motor vehicle accident. But I don't know a ton operationally about it. But yeah, those are reimbursable if the fire department is billing for those accidents and there's extrication and stuff like that.
But the person that's involved in it,
It's a
their insurance is the one's gonna.
Yeah, it's a blend of both. So some are, our own internal fees, and some are related to accident billing.
Sprinkler review, sprinkler inspection, fire alarm inspection, those all did not previously have fees, and now they do. Is that correct?
I don't have the old fee schedule in front of me, but I would assume, since it's not an edit, raising a fee, it would be adding those fees.
And is that on new construction, or is that when somebody calls in the middle of the work week and just wants an inspection, and that's what they have to pay, or what? No, that one's not, for an add-on, it's not terribly well laid out. I just like to know what it is.
We can clarify, and if you want to table it, if it's not enough clarity for you, and then come back.
What would you like to do, Derek?
Well, it's Wayne's on. I didn't know if.
Well, is he really on there? Wayne, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Hi. Are you able to answer Derek's question? Did you hear that?
I'm not really sure how the chief set up the fee structure. I do the work. I'm not the one doing the billings.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what his thought process was on that
You don't know if that.
aspect.
You don't know.
Fees.
Do you know if that was ever charged, or you don't know that either?
Yeah, it was. Charged. Whether it was for new construction with sprinkler system. If you added onto a building that required the addition, then that was under the addition fees, where that fee came from.
Yep.
So I hope that answers the question.
So you could move to postpone if you want more information, and I can get that from you from the chief.
I don't know. I think it's a huge deal. The other ones have the previous fees, so you can kind of see where they went up. This one, it looks like it's a new fee, but so it's hard. I don't know. I don't know what the old fee was.
I believe those last three are new.
I think Wayne said they weren't.
When I
Did you have a question there?
when I received the the document that you guys are looking at right now, the email said attached is the adjusted fee schedules. Also added 3 new fees, 2 for sprinkler systems and 1 for alarm systems.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Kind of going along with Derek's question.
I just don't get that because you have the inspection of the new construction
Right, that's where I
already,
was
and then
headed.
you have a sprinkler review. You're
Right.
there already. I don't get the double dip. I guess
Yeah, so,
if you have a 10,000 square foot house that you're in a new construction, they already have the 90. They went up to 100, which makes sense. Now it's another 100 because you have to have a sprinkler anyway when your square footage is that big. So now it's a
Just to answer that one, Derek, I don't think that we're doubling up on the fee. I think the chief's trying to establish a flat rate for the sprinklers and the fire alarm system so that it's a known, kind of like one of your fees is for solid fuel or chimney inspections, and that's a flat fee. I think that's what he's trying to do with this.
Yeah, what I mean is it's kind of like there's 2 fees though, because you're already there for that new construction inspection anyway, depending on what size the square footage of the house is. Fire department's already there. It's not like I get code enforcement because they'd be 2 different people going, but you're already having a new construction inspection of $100, and then on a new construction more than 10,000, you have to have a sprinkler anyway because of our ordinance. So you would have to have that sprinkler inspection anyway. So now you're having this is reading that you would have 2 fees.
Do you think this is for possibly like when they go in to check a business out or something like that?
I don't know. It doesesn't say if it's business or residential. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'd almost think it'd be if you had to go into
maybe
inspect
this
for
is separate
something
and it's
new.
business.
I would think that's,
I don't know though,
Yeah.
because I don't know how.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to guess, though. We can postpone it, or you can vote
why
to
don't we
pass them and
table it
amend
till
it
next
to
month?
remove those fees. And
let's.
Yeah, just I would like a little clarification on that
Yeah.
one.
Let's. Do we need to vote to table? Do, right?
push it to a later date. Yeah, you would move to postpone it to the August meeting, regular meeting.
I'm
Motion.
going to withdraw my motion.
Thank you.
That's okay with my seconder. And then make a motion to table this item.
Okay, second.
second.
All right, all in favor? Thank you. All right. Open space master plan update.
Sure. So I'll invite John up, but I'll give him a quick intro. So one of the recommendations of the comp plan was to revisit the open space master plan. When I came on board and met with Luneco Land Trust, they had made us aware of grant funding they had available to do this work. They just concluded with Casco. There's about $50,000 or $60,000 left. Now that the town is ready to begin that work, you've reappointed new Conservation Commission members. They've got their first scheduled meeting coming up on Monday. Basically just asking the board to authorize me to accept the grant for the purpose of updating the open space master plan, consistent with the goals of the master plan, and to execute any documents, put out an RFP to get a consultant to let the Conservation Commission start that work.
Mr. Rand.
Greetings, everybody. John Rand, 20 Dryadwoods Road. Glenn just captured it, and we're real happy to have Glenn here as a town manager and to have Matt Marcotte as the executive director over at Luneco, who has been around for a number of years. Yeah, we're ready to start up the RCC again. It's been dormant since 2017, and we feel like there's great opportunities out there for more land conservation. This was our last effort in 2009 that helped guide us to the Raymond Community Forest as an outcome. And hopeful that with the guidance of Luneco and the experience they've had in Casco producing a plan, we'll be working with a good template and won't have to be creating stuff from scratch. There's a fair amount of open space land in Raymond that's we have our eyes on for conservation and trail and recreation. Some of that could be bundled around the community center here in East Raymond and other parts of town, including Raymond Neck. So look forward to working with the select board and Glenn and Luneco, and right now we've got 2 folks. You're going to vote on one in another 10 minutes or so to join the RCC, and we're open to more. I've talked to a couple folks that were on it before, and we might be able to get some of them to come back and join. So look forward to working with all of you.
All right, any comments, questions from the board?
I'll just add that after talking with Matt, they may have some other funds left over from the infrastructure bill. So we might even be able to use that to do some ordinance updates when we've got anything related to the housing bills that have been coming through, because they all sort of connect with open space and how they interact with your growth zones. So we may be able to tap into some of that too, as we have to do some ordinance work down the road.
All right, thank you, John.
Yep.
All right, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to accept a grant from Loon Echo Land Trust for the purpose of updating the town's open space master plan consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan, and to execute any documents necessary to accept and administer the grant.
Second that.
Second. Discussion? I do have a question. This, where the board's goals are so closely aligned with the comp plan, would some of these funds potentially be able to be available for those goals?
That's what we're going to
As well as the
evaluate. So
complement?
this 50,000 or 60,000 that he has would be specifically to engage with a consultant that would support the Conservation Commission and us to do the master plan. But again, like I said, he has, he's trying to, we were trying to be creative with how we can utilize these funds, because they feel we can utilize them for other technical assistance that we might need down the road. So, but this 60K is just for the open space
Okay.
master plan.
All right, thank you. Vote, please. All in favor? Thank you. All right, J, Information Technology Policy Update.
Okay, so the reality is AI is here. People are using it whether we like it or not, and how we use it responsibly within our organization is part of what we need to do. In front of you is a draft policy that would outline proposed artificial intelligence usage policies within our organization. The highlights of that is obviously no personal identifying information, no decision-making. It does not replace accountability, but it creates controls and permissible uses, controlled by me and IT. And that is what we have for you to review and approve.
All right, motion, please.
I'll make a motion to approve the updated information technology policy, including provisions governing permissible use of artificial intelligence tools as presented.
Second.
I'll second that.
Discussion. Questions, comments?
I think I'll need a lot of training on it, because I don't know a whole lot about it, so.
So I read through it, and I was happy to see there's quite a bit in here about keeping information confidential. So good job on that. and it looks like it's pretty comprehensive. Two questions.
Sure.
Why is this policy specific to the Anthropic Claude AI?
That is one of the vendors that, given the data security standards and information sharing that other corporations utilize, that IT was comfortable recommending. They've done a lot of work to ensure that the information that they do have is not sold to data brokers and stuff like that. We didn't get into much discussion of what other alternatives also hold those same standards, but it's also, just from a practical standpoint, one of the more effective tools. It is quite powerful. I think the other ones are useful for if you're doing more design work. You know, a lot more of the visual generation stuff is useful for OpenAI if you're doing video and marketing stuff. But Claude has been really effective with, you know, just 10 years ago where we wouldn't have access to a software programmer because they're working for a FANG company and interns aren't coding Python. I was very easily able to do a draft sort of custom capital dashboard that, you know, can make our capital budget more easily digestible for residents. The other tools are less powerful in that regard, but I think it comes from a data security standpoint, and that's why Kevin was recommending Claude exclusively. And obviously we can always expand those as other companies, you know, meet those sort of data sovereignty standards.
Do we already own rights to this, use this service?
We
or
don't
does it
have
cost?
any permissible agent use right now, so this would enable us if we were to, say, buy a team license or something like that. Again, like I said, the practical reality is Microsoft is selling things baked into their software. There are tools that are, you know, this, you know, and I think me and Kevin had informal discussions about that, which was, I believe, but even before I got here, he disabled the native Copilot features because of that data sovereignty concern he had, and they're turned off for the most part. But yeah, there's a lot packed into all this.
So is there a network control so that somebody can't go to, like, use the Google AI or
Right now, none of the
ChatGPT?
browser-based stuff is blocked.
Okay.
It's just right now we don't allow the integrated plugins. We don't allow any direct install to desktop, access to files, and it still would be controlled in that regard. If we even wanted to experiment with a limited access, they would have to be approved by me and Kevin. It would be a specific folder, read-only access, sort of baby stepping it. Just because we have a lot of personnel information on our shared drives, we have resident information. We don't have a police department, so we don't really have to worry about active investigation files or anything getting out, but there's EMS HIPAA data that our fire department maintains, so we have to be mindful of that.
Did you poll town staff to see if anybody's currently using AI as part of their job?
I mean, it's just sort of, like, from a practical standpoint, it's being used. It's just, that's a known. I recommend, you know, when folks need help with certain things, that this tool, if they can, the free version, when it can help out. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's being used. I don't know what their preferences are.
Yes, the only reason I ask is that I would hate to put this in place and then have a town employee come forward and say, I use this every day to do X, Y, Z, and now because of this policy is in place, I can't do that part of my job anymore, or something like that. I'm just kind of, I know I'm kind
And
of
again,
out
but
in-
you should be refraining from using personal accounts to, like, input town information into. So this will at least enable a control where I would have a town license. If there was ever a FOA related to inquiries pulling in, we can pull those.
Yep.
So right now I have no insight into what people are doing in their personal computers, so at least enabling access and a use standard, we can at least make sure stuff's not leaking into, you know, people's personal Gmails and, you know, But I control most of the personnel information, so I would assume that that's not, no one else
Right.
is sharing that information, so.
Okay. All right.
I said, this is interesting, but it's also scary because I don't know a whole lot about it. But I mean, if you look at all the things that you're saying that we're not allowing to happen, that makes it good. In other words, it doesn't get into certain information.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you a
Okay.
great example
Yeah.
of, from a practical standpoint, at home, I needed to pull a permit file for pull a permit for a shed, because I bought a house yesterday, and City of Westbrook's website was not easy to navigate. My personal computer, Chrome plugin with Claude on my personal account. Here's the shed, here's the plan, I don't know the setbacks, here's the GIS link to the map that Westbrook maintains, do 15-foot setbacks, 8x10 shed, fill out their ancient form that's not fillable, then go to their website, log into my thing, fill out the permit application, and then in the other tab, go to Home Depot, and here's my cut list, add to my cart every piece of wood that I need, shingle, whatever. I went and ate dinner, came back, had to buy a couple more tokens, and 99 things in my cart, permit done, I hit send, send it off.
It is amazing.
I know, you used it for one of the last
Oh,
meeting, I think it was.
I use Copilot every single day, multiple times a day.
I mean, I've never touched it, to get into it, but I mean, I know it's there, it's just not knowing enough about it yet,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing to be mindful of is that while it may augment certain bureaucratic, rules-based things, it can't remove accountability, and that's the important part of this policy is like, no decision-making. Someone who's responsible for something is still responsible for it. You
Yep.
can't delegate that to an agent yet, I guess, but we won't be.
All right, all those in favor? All right, that passes. Thank you.
And you're gonna control it all, you and Kevin, right?
Kevin from a practical standpoint, but I will, approvals. And again, we're not ready to roll anything out right now. It's just, we'd rather have it in place.
Okay, item K, approval of quit claim deed, map 52, lot 12.
Sorry, I'm just gonna open that. So Sue's not here. This was one of our tax acquireds. It was sold. We're quit claiming it back to the previous owner of the estate because they've now paid the $12,000 that they owe us.
All right, motion, please.
I make a motion that we accept the tax acquired property for the Sorensen Walter quitclaim deed for where they paid the $12,669.49 that was passed due on the quitclaim deed.
Second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Thank you. L, approval of quit claim deed, map 16, lot 56.
So this one was not a tax acquired. We dealt with this one while Sue was on vacation. This was just holding up a title search. There was an old lien that wasn't discharged from 2003. So this is us discharging that error so that we can quit claim this.
Okay, motion, please.
So it's just basically paperwork.
Yeah, it was just an old lien that was sitting at the registry. I think it was $18, but it was.
I make a motion that we accept the tax acquired property quitclaim deed for the Chandler Christian. And it doesn't show a dollar amount here. to
Yeah, it
release
was paid
Yeah.
back in 2003, just it was never discharged.
Yeah, for the old discharge back in 2003.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, thank you. M, appointment of Ryan Pacaro, sorry if I mispronounced that, to the Conservation Commission.
Are you looking looking for.
Did you motion that?
I didn't yet.
Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion to appoint Ryan Packrow to the Conservation Commission.
I'll second that.
All right, discussion from the board? John?
Just to add that I've talked with him a number of times. He's a qualified guy. He works in conservation already and lives right here in Raymond. So I think he'll be a great addition to the Conservation Commission.
Awesome, thank you, John. All right, all those in favor? All right, welcome, Ryan. Thank you for your volunteerism. All right, item number 4, old business. A, review of bylaw revisions.
Yep, so you guys discussed this at the last meeting. I just asked for one more meeting to bring you back the red lines. There was just some stuff we're working through. The only thing I was gonna talk about tonight was just sort of a check-in before we do that. There was some inconsistency in the payroll frequency and the board stipends. The policy as written is $100 a month or $1,200 a year. I talked with Brenda this morning. For folks, again, it seems to be some folks were getting full stipend, they were paid annually. Some were getting the full stipend, they were paid biweekly. Some did not receive it at all. Some got like $250. We're gonna implement the policy as written for the time being. Folks who haven't been paid will be paid and caught up. And then we're gonna also maybe recommend in the new policy that we go to an annual payment on the last payroll, just to make it easier administratively. But I'll talk more with Brenda about that. But right now, we're just gonna follow the policy as written, which is the $100 a month. But unless you guys have any other feelings about it, if you wanna give yourself a pay cut or something, then you can give me some input before we bring you back the red line. But we're just gonna go with that and make sure it's applied consistently.
How far back in arrears are we going?
I think just Derek and Kayla were the two that were missed on the last one. I went back, it looked like Dennis got his, Sam was getting his, you guys weren't set up yet, so that will be coming. And then Chris, because he's a full-time employee, I didn't go fully into the breakdown, but I'm gonna double check to make sure his is, portioned out correctly as well. But yeah, we'll fix that and get that all squared away.
So we're just going into this past fiscal year, we're not going
Yeah,
further
no,
back than that?
it seems like we're not gonna do a look back unless you guys want me to for some reason.
I just want to know the exposure, that's why I'm asking the
Yeah.
question.
I can ask that question and find out, but I think as of right now, just the folks who were on the board who got missed last year, and then going forward, the
Okay.
$100 a month.
Can you double check if there's any legal requirement to that?
Sure.
Because I'd hate to find out down the road that we have to go back 5 years or something crazy like that, and we're talking $10,000 or whatever, because that's a different conversation.
Yep, that's fine.
There was
It was.
a lot of people that didn't take didn't purposely do it, and those are the
ones that probably didn't get.
That's probably why it's not showing that those people didn't get paid, is because they didn't want to get paid, and then some people got paid and donated it, and then some people got paid because they wanted to get paid. So I think that's where the differences are. But I think now it's getting changed, so it's easier for them to do the accounting on that. So
Yeah,
and if
'cause
you're going to
obviously-
donate, you got to get paid first. Then you can just donate it however you want on your own. If you're not going to get paid, then you just aren't going to get anything. And then if you are to keep it to pay for gas or whatever,
Right.
then you are going to get paid however once a year. Just for accounting wise, I think is what they're doing it now, instead of a revolving door of
Right.
this person said on
Well, and it's just
they didn't want to over
different.
here and
And then no one knows what someone new comes on the board and doesn't know what the practical application of it is, and just do what the last person did. Well, last person didn't want it, and last
Right.
person did, and so we'll just follow the policy as written, and
Yeah.
that'll make things much simpler.
And then have some documentation for folks that are saying, no, I don't want it, and
I mean, maybe we can incorporate that into the policy. If a board member wants to opt out of their stipend, this is how you do it.
yeah, I just think from an auditing standpoint, it would be good. I'm throwing my HR payroll hat on. I'm like, we need documentation. So, okay, thank you for that. All right, number 5, public comment. We'll start with folks that are in person, please.
Grace Levitt, Levitt Road. Two topics. First, on the presentation about the reval, I know that you said, Char, don't panic. I think it's a little too late to warn people. I think they are panicked, but yes, they should not panic until they know the actual information. I was wondering if the actual PowerPoint could be posted separately so people don't have to watch the whole meeting to get to it. If it doesn't seem like that would be out of context for people, it might help some people with some of the information. And I also was wondering if in getting our letters in a few weeks, if it will be very clear how to make appointments and with whom and when and all of that, just so people understand that. Maybe that's the first part of the letter, if need be, just so it's clear. On a different topic, and I was going to hold off on addressing this never-ending topic on traffic issues until this afternoon. I just want to remind people that a speed limit is just that. It's a limit. It's not, a suggestion. It's the maximum. So some people might go less than the limit. Some people might go at the limit. Maybe you do go a little over the limit, especially going down a hill or something like that. But I have been really very cautious for several years now to be sure I'm obeying the law, which is the speed limit. And I started just documenting. And again, I was going to hold off until this afternoon when I had another issue. So on Sunday, July 5th at around 7 p.m. on North Raymond Road, headed from Casco back to Raymond, a white sedan passed over the double yellow line around us. You can't see what's coming at you. Thursday, July 9th, 4 p.m., a large black SUV passed over the double yellow line just as I had turned onto Raymond Hill Road from 85. So again, someone coming down the hill. And then another car tailgated me the rest of the way up Raymond Hill. I mean, it was just, okay. I'm not driving below the speed limit. I'm at the speed limit. So again. And then Saturday, July 11th, 2:30 p.m., light blue sedan tailgated us on Route 85, sped around us just as we turned onto Raymond Hill. And if you know that intersection, someone coming down the hill again, you can't see. And they come down that hill fast because it's downhill. And then this afternoon, on North Raymond Road again, 2 vehicles passed me going over a double yellow line this afternoon. First one, then another one right behind him, and then the third car didn't pass me because we were getting closer to the intersection. But again, there's a double yellow line. So yes, issues of speeding, tailgating, and then passing when you don't see what's coming at you, or a deer coming out, or God forbid, a child running in the middle of the road. So yes, I'm bringing this up, and I'm just hoping that somehow, even if it's just me getting up here every so often, Kayla had some horrible experiences she recounted, others did as well at the last meeting. I just don't want a tragedy to befall anyone. I will also point out, when you're coming up Mill Street and trying to turn onto 85, no matter which way you're turning, you cannot see what's coming down 85 because of the shrubbery. It needs to be cut back. You just can't see. It does say it's a dangerous intersection. It's a dangerous intersection anyway, but when you can't see anything that's coming at you from the left, it's the corner, you're coming up
Facing this way.
Mill Street, onto 85, whether you're turning left or right on 85, it doesn't matter. You can't see what's coming down.
I think they were trimming that this morning.
Excuse me?
I think they were trimming that this morning.
Thank you so much, because
Yeah,
there
I
was
saw
a
them out
near
there.
miss that I saw shortly
It gets
after
bad
I had
quick.
a near miss.
Yeah.
Thank you. Good. So somebody else is noticing things like that. I appreciate that. And so I guess that is it. I would just keep harping at reminding people to stay safe, and let's not have a tragedy. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. So at last month's meeting under public comment, I did mention that I would reach out to Cumberland County sheriffs to try and get some sense of what policing is going on the roads. I sent a copy to all of you, also to the planning board. So just diving a little deeper into that data. 20 speeding tickets in the entire year of 2025. There were no citations in Raymond by Cumberland County sheriffs in October, November, or December of 2025. There were, of the 20, the 10 of the citations happened in the months of June, July, and August. Not surprising. And all of those 10 were on 302, 121, and 85. What that indicates to me is that there is an inadequate amount of policing of our roads. I don't think I'm really sharing anything that's mind-boggling to anyone here. I did ask that what the select board ask or direct the town manager would be to reach out to Cumberland County to ask for immediate increase in policing of the roads, and short of that, exploring possibly a contract other than what we get for services through our county taxes in order to supplement that policing. I do understand that policing is not the only solution. There have to be many different applications to traffic calming. I have heard on many occasions individuals on this board, individuals on the planning board, and other neighbors that I've talked to basically saying that there is no solution to this. I agree. I don't think there's a solution to it, and it's not unique to Raymond. But doing nothing is counterintuitive. So individuals that would suggest to me that if you make the roads safer, then it'll just encourage more speeding. Well, you know, that might be true if we widen lanes and straighten roads and don't have any policing mechanism or warning signs or raised tables or traffic circles. And I could go on and on of applications that other communities have tried and had some success with. But quite honestly, I had one article that suggested to me that there really shouldn't be any policing because that just makes people in the community angry, and that driving the speed limit is actually enticing people, as Mrs. Levitt just mentioned. Driving the speed limit, it's just that, it's the speed limit. And I know that we've identified that there's a problem. I don't think there's many people in this room that would disagree that there's a problem. But I have to tell you, individuals that come up and say there's nothing we can do about it, and possibly the town manager in his discussions and his comments on the implementation committee, or will look at the comprehensive plan and see that well into now 2 going on 3 years that plan has been in place, that there's been discussion about the necessity for it. So, but there was one article that suggested, along with the counterintuitive, don't make the roads safer, because that'll just cause more in the way of speeding. There was also an article that was basically saying that if what you do is drive the speed limit, you just infuriate people behind you. So drive 5 or 10 miles above the speed limit, and you won't have people crossing the double line. And I don't see that as being a solution to our problems. So I would hope that there's some action and that it happens sooner rather than later. I do understand that there are some radar feedback signs that, by the way, if any of you take any time at all to research, will see that, yes, in fact, they do calm traffic. And they are not in themselves the only solution. But if you look around and you're aware of the communities around us, you'll see more and more of those being implemented. And I will tell you, for 2 years, I got such pushback from leadership in this town about getting those, the few that we have, and still see very few of them, implemented in this town. And so that's where I express my frustrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else here in person like to speak? All right, seeing none, invite anyone that's online that would like to bring up anything. All right, seeing none. Moving on to item number 6, select board comments. So who has something they would like to talk about?
I'd like to thank Glenn for all he's been doing for us and for the workshops and having Kurt come in and talk to us about the taxes and stuff. I mean, I got a lot out of that. And I understand Peter's concern too. And I'm not sure if this would work or if it's even a possibility, but I'm wondering if we could go to the Cumberland County and ask them if they would be interested in maybe putting in a substation somewhere in our place here, where like I know Naples has one in their area, which it seems to bring a lot of police up there and to the Causeway area, and it certainly is an area that has a lot of traffic. And I seem to think that helps that area because they have a substation there. And maybe we could, rather it's maybe one of the buildings that we already have, or maybe when it comes time for the Jordan Small School to have something there, maybe offer them something in there. Maybe they didn't even want to put a dispatch in there. But I mean, it would certainly bring a lot more attention to our town and have them bring in some more forces just driving here to have a meeting, a phone call, or wash their car.
I know
maybe set something like that up.
There was some discussion a couple years ago, I was told by a past board member, that offering a wash bay or where their mechanics can get service
Absolutely.
would indirectly sort of
absolutely.
increase presence. I think in some ways you sort of missed the boat on that because they just gave the old firehouse in Wyndham on 302 to them for that exact purpose. So they'll be using that location, I think, going forward for that. But just to add on to some of the comments from before and what you were saying, I had intended to reach out to the sheriff's office just to inquire about, to do contract service. The thing about sheriff's deputies that are different from local PD is they don't share cruisers. You want a new deputy, you're buying a cruiser in addition to the deputy. But that doesn't mean that they may not do special details. If they're taking that car home and a deputy wants overtime, the sheriff's office may offer like a special detail rate, like, hey, it's 4th of July, got a lot of people on the lake, it'd be nice to have a DUI checkpoint at the boat launch. I'm sure that they may be open to stuff like that. If it's, a discussion down the road about adding a full contract deputy in the future, it's one thing, but maybe in the short term you can have a special detail on a monthly basis, or the kids race for pink slips on Wednesday, get over like whatever. You can have maybe some additional presence. I'm sure they'd be happy to charge us for it, but it may be an option instead of buying a car and a deputy, in addition to some other things that we can do.
I'm sorry, I know this is your comment time, but I'm pretty sure that we do. I know that they sit at the fire station down here and that they utilize our building. Do you know if they still do that?
I haven't talked to Sheriff Joyce directly yet. I've talked to one of the captains over there, but I am going to reach out because I have some other questions. I inquired about some call log information for other things, and I'll make a habit to introduce myself to. I think he has a brother that's in charge of the patrol division, another Sheriff Joyce. So I'll reach out to him.
They use it for internet, and I did see this winter them using the water, washing something.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just.
I've seen them up the fire barn, the new one up off in 302 too. Out on the
This
side
was here
too.
for me.
Yeah.
Was this older one?
But I still don't think it would hurt to ask them, if they would want a substation here, because even they got one in Wyndham. If they could have something here, that'd be nice, and especially if something, with the Jordan Small School, if we could offer them something there.
Yeah, I know us and other neighboring towns are interested in other contract services they may offer in the future too, so they are due for a phone call from us.
Egypt Road to the town office is the safest 10th mile in the town.
All right, any other
Send it to the school.
comments? Any other topics, comments? All right. Police presence. So, I remember years and years ago, I was told, and I don't know if it's true or not, that Raymond is in the geographic center of Cumberland County. And that's why Cumberland County sheriffs tend to hang out in this area because we're in the geographic center. And specifically, this area right here is the geographic center. Don't know how true that is, but that back when my mom was town clerk, she always said that. I commute up Route 85 to Raymond Hill Road, Valley Road, Ledge Hill Road, every day, twice a day. And I have been for 8.5 years. I don't see officers when I'm coming home at the end of the day, but I do see them in the morning. And since last meeting last month, Peter, I've been paying more attention to when I see them. And so I see them on Ledge Hill Valley at least twice a week. I assume they're coming down here. I don't know for sure. Obviously, I'm not tailing them. That would probably get me in trouble.
Do you get pulled over?
No.
Nice work.
So it's at least a couple times a week. So is that enough to stop people from speeding? No. Do I know that if someone were doing 10 over on Valley Road, would the sheriff take the time to pull them over? I don't know that either. So I think it's worth a phone call. The other thing that I just thought of is that Gray recently gave up their police presence, their contracted police presence. That was with the state, though, right?
No, I believe they had sheriff's deputy.
Was a sheriff's deputy?
Yeah, they don't, because they don't have a PD.
So perhaps the county has extra capacity. And I'm not necessarily advocating to go to an expense, but it would be worth a conversation.
Yeah, I mean, or at least just finding out what their special detail rates are,
Right.
if not a full contract.
Yep.
Talk to Gray and find out how much and then why.
I think it's last because I know Turner was going through it a couple of years ago because Route 4 is like the deadliest highway in the state, and they have no presence, no contract deputies, and they were like 120 a year. I imagine they're probably in the ballpark, a little bit more maybe in Cumberland County. But
I was saying more for research, like they got them, why they got rid of them.
Oh, as far as why they terminated the contract.
Yeah, there's no point in picking up stuff that didn't work and then
Right.
find out what didn't work more than what did work.
Yep.
And if stuff did work, go that route instead of.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what you're able to, dictate to the county sheriff under the contract. I mean, local PDs, you have a traffic patrol division, you have a community policing division, you've got a whatever division. Can you say, I'll do a contract, but really just need an SRO in the school or whatever it is? I don't know how their contracts. I've always had a local PD, so I'll learn more and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. Just general comments about the board goals and the comprehensive plan. So we as a town have a history of putting a lot of time, effort, man hours into comprehensive plans and other volunteers and coming up with these great ideas. But then once we get this great idea, it loses steam. So my personal commitment for my work on the board is to make sure we don't lose sight of our goals and our comp plan. I think John's probably nodding his head. Yep, Raymond's done that in the past. So definitely want to keep that as an open item on the agenda so we don't lose sight of it. I also want to address, or just make a quick statement about something that kind of flared up on social media in this past week and a half or so. And I've heard this over the years that our animal control services sometimes don't meet citizen expectations. And so I just wanted to make a public statement that we as a board and as town management are aware of the failure in some cases to meet expectations. And so that's being reviewed and addressed. And so we don't have any details to talk about publicly right now, but it is being recognized, and there's conversations and decisions being made to improve that service for taxpayers. So for the folks that were online, giving examples of all the issues the last several years, it's not falling on deaf ears. So thank you. The last item I want to talk about today is a question for the board. when I started regularly coming to these meetings last year, I was very surprised that the Board of Selectmen of the town of Raymond did not do the Pledge of Allegiance at start of meeting. And, you know, our number one job is to support the laws and ordinances of this town, our state, and our government, our federal government, and our country. And I would like us to consider adding that to our formal agenda. Obviously, it's voluntary if someone wants to participate in that, but I would like to see it added to the agenda. And don't know if anybody wants to talk about that right now, or think about it and talk about it later, but I would like to see it added to our agenda.
I'll do it.
Do you have any objection, Kayla?
I don't have an objection,
Okay.
but I don't think that one's participation in that equates to anything.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Yeah, it's purely voluntary. Okay, all right. Let's do it. All right, anything else, anybody, before I close it out? All right, item number 7, town manager's report and communications, please.
Sure. So I think we talked about a couple of the ones that came up during the meeting, but I will add the presentation to the agenda after the fact, so it's in the minutes. Kurt was working on it throughout the day, so I believe he came to it with a hot presentation. So now that it's done, I'll put it up tomorrow. The update I had is, so I sort of just spent some time with the comp plan and wanted to boil it down into some action items, because I know we don't have the implementation committee really active, and we talked about the board sort of kind of keeping tabs on it. So I just kind of broke out the action items as best I could into a little tracker. I'm not going to go through all of those. They're in the agenda packet if people want to review it, but just for that purpose, so we can kind of stay active and let you know where we're at and what we're in progress with. I think there was like 62 actions that we sort of named, 7 priorities, 11 currently in progress, 1 ongoing. I think 1 is actually complete. I think the summer day camp stuff might be one we could mark complete. And I've kicked that over to staff to review. I've given a copy to GPCOG to see what technical assistance they can offer on certain action items. Some of the board and I will be meeting with GPCOG on August 4th to go over what they can do to help with all the goals. Again, I won't go through the list, but you know, just some of the fun stuff. One of the priority items was work with Maine DOT to complete assessment work and improve culverts. Just got notice last Friday that we'll be getting a vulnerability assessment grant for $45,000 to do exactly that. My first thought before even reading the comp plan was be helpful to Public Works and Fire. County maintains a 10-year hazard mitigation plan. Usually it'll identify critical infrastructure that might be, you know, prone to a storm coming through, washing out a culvert, stuff like that. But if you don't submit those things to the county and put them on their plan, when the grants come up from FEMA or whoever to replace your critical infrastructure and you haven't identified it as a vulnerable piece of infrastructure, guess who doesn't get the grant? We don't. So this grant will create that inventory and sort of help Public Works in their long-range capital planning and give Nate some, you know, hours back in his life so he's not driving around looking at every culvert and every piece of road that needs something. So I'm waiting for them to award the contract to that consultant, and we'll find out from the state and GPCOG when that work is going to occur. I'm going to try and see if I could parlay that into maybe some needs assessments for the school and the work that the middle school committee's doing. Some of the other grants sort of work. We applied for a UPI, and I think that hits a couple of the comp plan goals, which is pedestrian and safety and access, in addition to grant funding opportunities. That is a state program. Well, not state program, it's state money they give to PACTs, who Raymond is a member of, but has not historically participated. But we applied for a 50-50 match to do a sidewalk from Main Street to Sherry Gagnon. Now, that's not saying that we're going to fund it. It's just saying we're applying. And if we get it awarded, it'll be part of next year's budget process, and we can evaluate, do we want to do the 50-50 match and do the sidewalk? But we can always kind of keep that on our list, like what are UPI projects we want to apply for in the future. Also learned that we're supposed to be talking to our partners in the Western subregion for those, and because we've never asked for anything ever, and they forgot we existed, so I go and submit the application and get a phone call. Well, did you talk to Gorham and Standish and Westbrook? I go, no, was I supposed to? And they're like, yeah, you have to coordinate with them and prioritize. And I'm like, well, they didn't call me either, so I'm gonna send this in. And they apologize, and they're like, no, we just historically, you know, you never asked for anything, so we forgot you were there. So we're on the list now. And, you know, we'll be applying for those in the future. Got the open space grant. The older American stuff is stuff we're working on. That'll come up in September. And again, GPCOG gave me a lot of feedback on these, so we'll go over that. But again, the list is there. You can all kind of peek at it. That was the majority of what I wanted to touch on. They definitely had one more thing that popped into my head before the meeting, but it's gone now, so I will email you all if it comes back.
We had talked earlier about maybe you trying to shrink that report down.
Yeah, it's not a very printable document.
Yeah,
I will.
I mean, if you shrink it down to it fits, you can't read it. Not even with a magnifying. So I mean, you know, if we could get that down, it'd be nice because I'm a highlighter guy. I like to know what's going on. I like to see it in front of me.
Yeah, and I've sort of kept it live as a Google Sheet, so if
Right.
you have Gmail, you can see it update in real time. I'll share it with you. But
I guess I could always go to Staples and have them, you know, put it on a big piece of paper. But I'd
I'll
like to
figure
have
out.
something
I'll
that, you know,
figure out a way to make
it's-
it
If it's in front of me, I keep seeing it. It keeps bringing my mind back there.
legible.
Necessarily, if I see an email, I may not go back to it again for a long time.
No, that should be easy enough. Now that I have Claude, maybe I'll ask Claude to format it in a way that's ADA friendly and all that fun stuff.
One note about Curtis's presentation. He had on his presentation SAD instead of RSU. Can you fix that before you publish it? My OCD was freaking out.
It's a different district.
We better not be paying the taxes of a different school district.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, B.
No updates from departments. Next meeting, a regular board meeting, August 11th. 15th, we're moving a week later to accommodate the commitment. Only holidays, Labor Day coming up next. That's all.
All right. And we don't have an executive session this evening, so the next item is number 9, adjournment. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.